Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're a student staring down the barrel of the Florida 215 Health and Life Agent License exam, you know exactly how daunting the prep can feel. It's a lot, but today we're cutting through all that noise. We're going to map out the exact no-fluff roadmap to conquering this test and officially launching your career.
So this is the big question, right? It's probably the main source of your anxiety when you're looking at that massive stack of study manuals on your desk. How on earth do you navigate this maze of state requirements? Well, the good news is, with a really clear, structured attack plan, it's completely achievable. You just need to know how to play the game.
Here is our quick agenda for This Explainer. We'll cover your 215 journey, pre-licensing requirements, decoding the state exam, mastering the content, exam success strategies, and lastly, your final steps.
All right, Part 1, your Florida 215 journey, setting the stage. Earning this license is literally your all-access pass to a lucrative career, but first, you've got to prove your competence to the state.
Moving on to Part 2, meeting pre-licensing requirements. The first hurdles. Think of this phase as your training camp before the big game.
Okay, so the very first number you need to burn into your memory is 60. Your very first action step is completing a mandatory 60-hour approved pre-licensing course. I mean, that's a week and a half of full-time work. It's broken down into sequential modules, and you absolutely must pass each module's quiz with at least a 70% to unlock your final certificate.
Once you've actually got that 60-hour certificate in hand, the rest of this phase is really just a checklist. Step 2, you submit your online application via the state's My Profile system. Step 3, pay your application fees, which is usually around $55. And Step 4, submit your live scan fingerprints. Once all of that is in, it takes about 5 to 15 business days for the state to process everything.
Which brings us to Part 3, decoding the state exam, knowing the enemy. If you want to beat the test, you have to know exactly what it looks like.
You've got to keep your eyes on the prize here. Your ultimate goal on this computer-based state exam is just to hit that 70% passing threshold. Remember, the old saying, C's get degrees, absolutely applies here. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistently knowledgeable across the board.
Now, this percentage breakdown is basically your ultimate study cheat sheet. Just look at how it's weighted. 13% of your questions are purely on Florida general line statutes. Another 20% is split evenly between life, annuity, and health rules. As a student, you need to use this data to ruthlessly prioritize your time. Don't spend half your week stressing over a topic that only makes up 2% of the test. Efficiency is the name of the game here.
Let's jump into Part 4, mastering the content outline, the vocabulary of insurance.
So the actual content you'll be tested on goes pretty deep. You're going to need to master life insurance fundamentals, navigate health policy types from HMOs to Medicare, and really understand annuities. But the glue wrapping all of this together are the strict Florida statutes and ethics. You have to know this terminology cold, not just to pass the test, but to actually legally protect your future clients down the road. For example, the test makers absolutely love to quiz you on shady behavior. Take something called sliding. This is an unfair method of competition where an agent might secretly, slide an extra coverage into a policy without the client even knowing. You must be able to spot unethical practices like sliding, coercion, or defamation the very second they pop up on your screen.
They also really love to trip you up on the tiny legal nuances. For instance, both churning and twisting involve deceiving a client into replacing a policy just to pocket a quick commission. But the exam tests the subtle difference. Churning happens within the same insurance company, while twisting involves moving the client to a completely different company. As a student, nailing down these exact legal distinctions is where you win or lose.
All right, Part 5, strategies for exam success, tools for the test. Look, you should always base your studying directly on the official Florida Department of Financial Services examination content outlines. Insurance laws change rapidly, right? If you're using a textbook from 5 years ago, you're literally studying for the wrong test. Your study materials absolutely must match the current syllabus. Also, taking computer-based practice exams is absolutely vital. It's all about building test day muscle memory. The state exam interface looks and feels a very specific way. By hammering away at practice tests on a screen, you eliminate the friction of the testing environment. That way, when you finally sit in that chair, probably fueled by way too much test day coffee, there are zero technical surprises. And finally, Part 6, final steps to licensure, crossing the finish line. So what happens after you hit submit and finally see that glorious pass on the screen?
Well, your post-exam timeline officially kicks off. That score is valid for 1 year. Within 5 to 15 days, your official license will be approved in your MyProfile account. But hold on, you can't sell just yet. You still have to obtain an official appointment from an insurance carrier first. And to keep that hard-earned license active, you're required to complete 24 hours of continuing education every 2 years.
All right, your roadmap is fully laid out. Those 60 hours of pre-licensing and those 165 test questions, they're really just the stepping stone standing between you and a completely new career. You have the data, you know the traps to watch out for, and you've got the strategy. So the only question left for you is, what is the very first step you are going to take today to start building your future?